things through research is it's currency. It's currency in this environment. You know, I get tenure, I get promotions, I get a reputation, I get named as an expert in a certain field. Next thing, CBC's phoning me as an expert to, you know, what do I think on this topic? What am I making sure that the community is getting back? And of course, people started to get wise to this. You know, people get in the community seeing themselves maybe misrepresented positively, maybe negatively, maybe misrepresented. I have a Maori friend from New Zealand who said that they used to say outrageous things in their language because they know people wouldn't understand, and then they'd see it in wherever and it would be hilarious. But that's a dangerous thing to do too. You know, you're complicit in the misrepresentation of your own community. At that time, they just thought of it being subversive. But I think it's important that there's an issue of trust, and there's some of our kids doing blind exercises that are trust exercises. So there's this thought about how bad reputation, you know, anthropologists, theft, they didn't think they were stealing, but nevertheless, that the community thought they were stealing, sacred objects, practices, benefits researchers, not communities, misunderstands, and misrepresents. My husband and I went on an Alaska cruise a few years ago, and we went to one of the Native American towns, and they were doing showing dance, and I thought it was really cool. And the young guy said, "No cameras. I don't want to see my patterns, my regalia, a copy sold on eBay." And so the communities are very aware that, you know, their identities and things are marketable in different ways. I had a postdoc, and one of my postdocs is an anthropologist. This is his favorite cartoon. "Oh no, the anthropologists are coming. Put away your TVs and your computers." We have to portray the image that they think we do. So my friend Linda Goulet said, "Geez, if you're being traditionally marginalized, you may not actually provide people with research data that could be used to oppress them further." Just a thought. Geez, that's smart, Linda. I think I caught one too many. Oh no. Oh, where's my other one? One of those. So this is why Indigenous people should participate in research. You know, to have it framed. Come in. There's room. I thought that was a pretty cool model, you know, because there's the honoring the past, present, and future, and so often in Canada people don't want to, you know, talk honestly about the past. We kind of want to, let's just not go to there, but for Indigenous people, there's so much important to having healthy presents and futures. There has to be a reclamation and validation of an authentic, and I'm saying that is a dangerous word, but our truths about the past. I think these are a thing when we, you know, there's more different First Nations in Canada that I can actually name. If I wanted to go North America, I'd be totally done, because I think there's more than 1,000. But I think there are commonalities in Indigenous research that goes from one community to the other, and the honoring the past, present, and future, the interconnectedness, and that holistic spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental aspects of human beings. Even when I'm talking to Indigenous people from other countries, those things seem to be a commonality, and then there's other things that are very different, of course. So communities, you know, with that sort of a foundation, a holistic model for Indigenous research, can inform policy, programming, and funding. which is really huge. And also looking in our own traditions, the traditional pursuit of knowledge. Danny Musqua, who's an elder from Kamsek area, says, you know, he was involved with our center for many years, and he said that his grandfather is just, that's the purpose of life, is to learn something. Research has been part of our community since forever. Like, you can't live outside in a Saskatchewan winter without having a strong basis in research. You know, to live, survive, thrive, eat, you have to actually be looking at things, maybe not in the same model as we do in contemporary society, but we do nonetheless. So there's benefits, stronger communities, shared knowledge, evidence-based policy, and we're really big on that these days. I'm just like hanging out with policy people, dragging them into our projects, because I've heard way too many researchers say that I did this really cool research, I did this wonderful report, I sent it to the minister, it just sits on the shelf. Okay, if that's been done like about a gazillion times, maybe we need to have the policy people in on the ground floor so they actually have buy-in and willing to commit to using the research findings to make a change. Just thinking. Just saying. Oh, this is the one. This is, I think, probably horribly racist, though these are sort of research subjects, natives from who knows where, but I thought it was really funny, so that's probably totally inappropriate for me, but you know, let's contact that professor who wants to study us and meet the students he sends to do the research. So totally inappropriate, offensive joke, but I thought it was hilarious. And actually I was talking to one of our team members the other day, and there are a lot of communities. I don't think people here are being horribly bossy, a little bit, but people are getting to know about this whole, you know, Indigenous research model, and they want to, they want researchers, they want you to come and they want you to do what they need you to do. I had a bit of it. There's been a lot of writing about Indigenous community-based research that says, you know, the community should define the research, you know, to identify what needs to be researched, what are the things they want out of it. And we were having a presentation, and our community partner said to me, we didn't do that, you know, because it was saying, doing that is good, going in there with a preconceived project is bad. And I have some mixed feelings about that, because she said, you know, I wish we didn't get to do that at first. You guys did come with a preconceived project. And I said, yeah, but we can only do what we have the skills to do. Like, if you said your project, that, you know, the most pressing need of your community was cancer research, I'd say good luck to you. You know, I have English degrees. I can't really help you on that. So I think my mom always used to talk about, like, the old clock, the pendulum swinging. You know, I think we've gone from an exploitive place to a place where communities are very much wanting to call the shots. But I think we have to more consider it as a point of negotiation, because we only can do what we can do. You know, we can't bring everything to the table. So we don't want to be exploiting anybody, but we don't want to get eaten either. You know, there's a point in between. So this is actually from the 4 R's of Indigenous education: respect, relevance, reciprocity, and responsibility. The Institute for Aboriginal Peoples Health at CIHR, though, has taken those and applied them to Indigenous research. And boy, I think if there's anything that's a guiding model, that's a really good foundational one. That said, when I teach, I always ask my students, you know, on the first day, like, let's set up some guidelines for how this class is going to run and how we interact with everybody else. And they always say respect first. And so I want to know what that means. You know, that's an abstraction. That doesn't, my husband and I fought for years over that word because we defined it differently. Like I'd come home, have a hard day, tell him my sad story, he'd start giving me ideas for solutions. I'd get mad because he thought I was an idiot. He'd get mad because he was doing the best he could to solve my problem and I wasn't accepting it and the war was on. You know, respect to him and respect to me didn't mean the same thing. So I think when we're looking at these things, we have to look at what, if they're abstractions, what do they actually mean? How are you going to do that with your community partners? How do you make them walk and talk? There's also a lot of discussion made all cap ownership, control, access, possession, and this is specific to research data. That, a mask over there, is research data from Muscogee School. We did a project, the story of the mask, and the mask represented those children in that school from grade 3 to grade 8 worked together and created that and attributed meaning to it and how that defined who they were as Anishinaabe people in this place, in that school. It was quite amazing. That lives at the reserve. We got the pictures, you know, we didn't try and own that. Whereas in other projects, the communities would say, you want to keep that at the university in a log cabin? We don't have the capacity to keep that research data in a safe place. So again, this is a site of negotiation. Which one is going to be whose responsibility? How do we recognize this belongs to us collectively, yet there are things that may very well have to be kept in strict confidence. The Tri-Council Policy Statement, Chapter 8, I believe it is, of research, or Chapter 9, it's right in front of my notes. Research involving First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I'm a little ticked at some of the researchers. Apparently a lot of people think that's just too much trouble, so they'll just avoid doing work with Indigenous people. It's like, really? I think this is actually a good model for all communities, you know, respect for persons, concern for welfare, justice, community engagement, research agreements. Again, I think this is a thing that could be a good thing. It might be a lot more work, but not that much. Get to the hang of the research agreements and get some templates and get to know your partners. So, wanting to talk about community-based transformative research, because that's what we're really at IPHRC wanting to do. And we want to be inclusive enough to do it in a variety of forms. One of our researchers, we very much privilege community-based research, but he does research on diabetes and chronic disease. Well, chronic disease, specifically diabetes, using administrative data from the Ministry of Health, not really lending itself to community engagement. Yet at the same time, the stuff he's uncovered, you know, who's the highest risk of type 2 diabetes? First Nations girls, age 13, 14-ish. Particularly if their mothers had gestational diabetes. That's a really important thing for the community to know. No, it's not community-based. Do we say, you know, you can't play in our sandbox? No, I don't think so. You know, how are you going to disseminate it that it's going to be useful to communities? How's this going to be usable? So I think community-based transformative research can take in a variety of shapes. I think it's more believing those principles that I set out already here. So the community role can be shaping the research questions, deciding on methodology. We've had all kinds of discussions where we thought we were all that really knew what was the best thing that was going to happen. Our community partner looks at us and goes, yeah, never happened. Nope. So, you know, to get that guidance on methodology, helping with data collection and tools, interpreting, that's hugely important. We've had elders who've watched our research in progress and interpreted on the spot and come up with things that we certainly didn't realize we were doing, in a good way too. So moving the results into practice. And one of the projects I want to talk to you about, just to show you what some of the examples of transformative community-based research, is the play times three. Pamela Petruka, who's the College of Nursing at the University of Saskatchewan, has been working with Standing Buffalo community like forever. And she did a very longitudinal study with youth, meeting with them every month. And she had this whole thing with the youth. They wanted to define, the community wanted to define a Dakota way of looking at health and what's important to health. And she did it using photo boys. So the kids were out with their cameras taking pictures of all the things they thought were significant to coming back and have discussion. She'd meet with them every month, and they had identified the menu. We have the if you feed them, they will come sort of philosophy, I think, in Aboriginal research. You know, so one month they wanted Thai food because nobody ever had Thai food, and you know, whatever she would bring it. And she was with these kids for, my goodness, I'm not sure how many years, 3 to 5 years, going through with them, meeting every month, and coming up with all of these, a lot of artistic renderings about what health is, the photo boys. And so the project's coming to an end. She said, well, you know, I will develop a DVD to leave in the community of the research findings and a report. And the community went, no thanks, we're Dakota people. This is not how we pass on our history. We use winter calm blankets, the robes, the buffalo robes that people would paint the significant events of their history. And Pamela, who's like nice white lady from rural Saskatchewan, goes, winter counts? What is winter counts? And the community explained, and so she started looking into it, and this is how this grant actually came to be, was the dissemination grant of the bigger project. So she and the youth, a group of the youth, and I think one of the health director went to the Smithsonian, which has the largest collection of these, to research this as all as a communications means, and use that for the community dissemination of the research findings, following their culture, their traditions. She still did the DVD and the report and everything, because there's government and other audiences, but she's taken this to a number of conferences to show different ways of knowledge translation, disseminating research results. One that I'm on, because with my English degrees, you know I would be on respiratory health studies. I don't even know how I do what I do sometimes.
I know, you don't know how to say no.
Well, that's part, you know, if you're working for your own community, it's really hard to say no when you see pressing needs. And so I'm supposedly the knowledge translation expert. Oh no, Jesse, did they ever teach you that term in my degrees? Google knowledge translation. That's what I'm in this. So we're working with two communities, one in central and Beardy-Socomosis and Montreal Lake in more northern area. Both Cree, two different language dialects of Cree, two different cultures, and looking. The thing that's cool about this and is, so we assessed community health using a lot of quantitative surveys. We did a children's health survey, we did a house-to-house survey, but we got people, university students from communities hired to do the surveys, so that was cool. And we also did, we're doing in the midst of now a housing study, and we also had on the surveys a whole section on racism, and wanting to look at racism as a health determinant. But the goal is, once we get the data, is to work with the communities and develop interventions that can address the health issues that the community has within its power to address. Often there's a lot of blaming the victim. Geez, the houses are in such terrible shape. Like, have you seen their budget? Hello. You know, it's not like they're rolling in the millions here. So the redress component, Greg Marshallton from the Grad School of Public Policy is working with us, and Cassandra, who should be here but has been busy being sick, is looking at the policy changes needed as the form of redress. So that's where we're going with that one, and then we will go back and reassess and then see what, you know, what worked, what didn't. So it's working with honing the efficacy of this as the interventions we develop and the policy changes. Another one that I think is really good, and the other one, sorry, that was Jim Dawsman, Panampawa, and Sylvia Abadi from the College of Medicine. For whatever reason, I should have had some more examples from here. These are people with U of S. This is Colleen Dell, who's one of our researchers, who's worked really closely with the communities through the NADA program, the National Native Addictions Partnership Foundation, or program, and the National Native Addictions Partnership Foundation. I can't further remember, life of me remember what YSEP means. Anybody know?
What is what?
The YSEP, the partners up there. Can't remember what that means, and I should know that. But she's working with those programs. All of the people, like the First Nations owned, Métis-owned treatment centers or run treatment centers, know that involvement with culture was an effective intervention for helping people deal with addictions. Yet they did a great big national study or survey of those people of what were their research needs, and they said, we know this works in our heart of hearts, we've seen it again and again, yet we have no data to present to policy people. So what she's doing is working with these organizations to gather that data so we can take that evidence-based policy recommendations to the powers that be in a language that resonates with them. That's why we're doing quantitative research with in combination with arts-based stuff, because they might think we're a little bit crazy otherwise.
Youth Succeeding in Employment Program.
Yeah, I was just.
Oh, thank you. I love
You
those
beat me
things.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need memories anymore when we have Dr. Google.
Yeah.
But this is the one that's near and dear to my heart. I mean, the respiratory health is important too, but this one I've been involved with for a long, let me see, when did we start? 2006. And I suppose we're on phase 2 and working on developing phase 3. And originally the project was called, that's where a lot of these pictures come from, Developing Aboriginal Youth Health Leadership Through Theatre. And we're working in partnership with the Foul Hills Cabell Tribal Council Health Services, and that serves the 11 First Nations that more or less are in the U of R catchment area that we should all have as our BFFs here. Our goal was to work with the communities. It kind of came about in response to actually a community in the north having a youth suicide issue that kids just didn't seem to be able to get past. And my partners Warren Linz and Linda Goulet had been working with Regina Public on the Act 2000 anti-racism program, using forum theater as anti-racism, anti-bullying. And the goal was for them to go up north and to work with these kids, not as a research project, just as something to help the community. One of the things we discovered was that nobody wants to fund programs, but research can get buckets of money if you can win in those pesky competitions. And I knew where to get money, so that was because I already knew about IPHRC, and at that time we had 10,000 research development partnership startup grants. So I got involved, and I wanted to go and play with the kids. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I wanted to do it anyway. Karen Schmidt, who you worked on campus here at Suntap Regina, was our community partner as the health educator. So we started doing these workshops. We didn't go to the northern community because we had to get ethics approval from the health region, and they were just, it was so difficult that the community just sort of gave up, which is really unfortunate. But we had the whole plan together, and somebody ran into Karen in the hall and said, geez, we'd like to do this. And she said, come, we'll do it. You know, it wasn't the ethics committee on the university, it was the one in our health region specifically that was kind of having a difficult time with it. Our goal at first was to use the workshops as a way of helping with leadership, help the youth examine the decisions they made to affect their health. Didn't end up being that way because when you're doing research with community, I mean, you go in with the thing, hypotheses, you know, you guess that this might work. And then you put it into practice and this, and this works and the other this, and this, you go, what were we thinking? And you have to change the iterative process of community-based research, and then you go on and learn, and you know, it's that always that adjusting in response to the needs of the community. So we creating games, we called it rehearsing for reality, although we actually wrote something called rehearsing with reality, because even though the reality within the confines of the workshop, I mean, we were making stuff up, there were still real people and real relationships and real kinds of things going on. So really helping, wanting to work with them to develop critical thinking by questioning habitual norms and building skills and that. And there's a lot of pictures. I think with 300-400 youth we've worked with so far since 2006. Telling stories with the bodies. You know, often we would always starting out the workshops with a talking circle, but often you're lucky if you get a word, you know, somebody squeaks out their name. Maybe by the end of the workshop you get a few words, sometimes you get sentences. I'm always over the moon when we get paragraphs. But to use their bodies to tell a story, there's all kinds, I mean, that's a whole paper in itself. I think the great equalizer is the fun of it. You know, when we're playing games and we got, you know, 15-year-old basketball stars playing cat and mouse with 62-year-old me, and I couldn't have beat them when I was 15 anyway because I never could walk and chew gum at the same time. There, you know, everybody shines in different areas of the games. Within 5 minutes where everybody's laughing because there's so much fun in them, and one of the things that comes out is the healing nature of having fun. We did this last year at Congress with a group of academics at UVic. And we actually got them to do a game called Planet, was it 51 or 59? It's the one of that cartoon movie, 51, where the astronaut lands and he's the alien. And so we put them in groups and made them develop their own little planets and had a language and an enemy and a culture and a flag and a national anthem. You should see these guys. I mean, and there were people there. It wasn't just like going when you go to a conference and all your peeps say. These were people I'd never met in my life. And some guy who was giving this really serious presentation, singing opera to their national anthem. I don't think we have enough fun around here. I think we need to. I think this would be a healthier environment if we took a little bit more time to have fun. And for the youth, you know, you see the one is growling at the other one. You know, having the fun was huge. And it's also them being a leader and being a follower, how to be a good leader and a good follower, not by lecture, but the embodiment of doing. So testing different choices, they do a lot of creating static images and then animating them to have them move, testing choices, examining consequences, giving that embodied expression to their lived experience. And collaborative leadership, oh my God, and collaborative competition, that's a word we've been using. Yeah, if you ever want to have fun at having some sort of meeting, just get yourself a bamboo thing. Everybody alternates like one finger, and you have to put it on the floor without talking. Yeah, think that'd be easy. These guys did it like nothing. Our facilitators, they've done it with a group of colleagues at Concordia. Warren Lins is from Concordia. It took them an hour. But, you know, it's a good one, that one. So one of the findings that we found was working in communities that have been, grinding poverty and colonization is people have been taught for generations that all the power lies on the outside, external locus of control. And it's not like you go, oh no, you have to take control of your own life, be the master, fake captain of your ship. Like, oh really? Geez, have you read that First Nations Education Act? The relationship between lack of agency and lack of volition. When I lived in Prince Albert in the 1970s, I remember one of the Indian agent chaired band meetings and told the chief and council what they could vote. Geez, you want to have volition if you have no agency? You may as well just go whatever, Gayas and Cree. Because otherwise you would go nuts, And, people just having that whatever, I'm just along for the ride idea. So that came up. Also, this sounds so ridiculous when I say it now. This is the 2020 hindsight. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to do, warm-ups, team building, trust building. We're going to teach them how to build images, and then we're going to have them identify the health issues that affect their community. We'll put on a forum theater play for the community where the people would the audience would participate in solving the issues, and there you go, we'd be finished. And then the first thing that happened was the kids went, we don't want to make a play. We just want to play games. I'm so glad I work with people who are in education. Because I'm like, what? No, you kept your word. Both Linda and Karen said, you might want to think about what's going on here, why they don't want to do this. So we had to look at the games and see what there was in the games that was having, by the end of the workshops, little kids with big teary eyes going, this made me such a difference in my whole life. And we're really? We didn't know that. So what are we doing? Another thing that we had to realize was micro-context. That's the term we've been giving them. Each community has a history. This is, we've done a lot of work with File Hills reserves, the 4 reserved by Balcarres, particularly Peakses, which is home of the File Hills Farm Colony, which was a social experiment in the early 20th century to select promising students from residential schools, relocate them, sometimes arrange their marriages, and have them live like white people. And the Indian agent and wife would do little spot checks to make sure they weren't doing any Indian stuff. So here's their brass band. They had tea parties and all kinds of things like that. Although that was over 100 years ago, if you talk to the community, it happened last week. It's still playing out in relationships. Who's really from here and who is placed here? I think Standing Buffalo, Dakota, many of the people there, I think most of the people were came to, well, this was their territory too, but came to the Canada fleeing the U.S. government after the mass hangings, the largest mass hangings in U.S. history in Minnesota in the 1850s. So they came running, and there's families who nobody knows, like one family came, there were 2 children, nobody knew where they came from, they just arrived one day. How does that fit on community cohesiveness when you have all these different people from different places in a culture which traditionally was highly structured? Context matters. It matters on how you understand your relationships with your community partners. It matters how people will participate in the research process, what health means to them. Is it the same for every community? And also culture matters. There was a huge thing on suicide, youth suicide, that was done quite a few years ago. Chandler and Lalonde did a huge quantitative study that showed in the communities where there was a strong language, culture, self-governance, didn't have suicides. So how does that work in here? And phase 2 of our project is actually in response to the community needs, is trying to using the arts, doing suicide prevention through wellness promotion, which I will talk more about tomorrow night because that's what we're presenting at the Artesian. And we're having our community research assistants take the lead, and they're all guys from, 3 First Nations guys. 2 from the south, one is from Beardy's, but he lives here all his life. So one of the findings was about the colonization of the imagination, and I suppose in a colonial enterprise that's kind of important because if people have had a good imagination, they might imagine they didn't like it. I realize I have this picture 2 times. It's my favorite picture ever. That was a group I was working with. I shouldn't say that because that actually makes it sound like I did something when they said, get out of the way, we're doing this. And one little guy just took the lead and everybody followed him. But it was creating an image of their ideal school. So that was, you can write a whole paper on just that as a symbol of the idea. There's nothing underneath them.
Yeah.
And they didn't use anything underneath them to get there. Yeah, I know. It's a good thing I wasn't involved. I would be still at the chiropractor. So the research, the benefits that we think to the community of this project is the youth programming, but informed program development. We've done a lot of teaching professionals who use the arts, therefore, in their classrooms, and building capacity. We've sent people, community members for training, hiring people in the project. This is me now. I love that picture. I don't know if it has anything to do with it. I always feel like I'm this kind of word warrior out there spreading, giving presentations to that's Terrence School performance artists. Yeah, presenting to, educate, taking to both the community and in academic publications. And we have to make sure community understands that if we don't do these articles, we don't get more money. So, always a good thing. And sometimes, it's like we research are going in with buckets of money that much more than the community gets to do things. So how we can do that in a way that helps with community capacity is really important. And we've got to figure out our social media stuff going on. So, and those, yes, I got them both, the logos. Yeah, thank you. We kind of lucked out last year that we got $750,000 from Sask Health Research Foundation and then $500,000 from CIHR. So nobody else got that in the English department. That's really hateful.
And honestly, since I started working here, that seems like a lot of money. But when you're working with communities, that's just a drop in the bucket. It really isn't a lot of money. You hire your research coordinators, you do your data, you do your, you hire your administration staff, you do transcribing, audio visual, gone.
Yeah.
It's not even, I'm like, we need more money.
Yeah. But I think it's hard for communities who are, working on health education and they've got a budget of like $2,500 for a year. And we're going, feeling cheap now, how can we help? Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you so much.